At a family philanthropy event, my aunt said publicly, "We need people like her so the rest of us can shine." Everyone smirked. I waited 13 years, strategically bankrupted her charity through legal exposures, forcing a full IRS seizure. She lost her homes, her cars, her social circle, and her name was formally removed from every scholarship she had ever funded. She's now known only in footnotes as the director of the worst nonprofit collapse in state history. I was 20 when she humiliated me in front of a ballroom full of people. It was the Carmichael Family Giving Summit, this over-the-top event they held every year in Denver. Fancy invitations, champagne, live music, tall centerpieces on every table. My mom dragged me along because it was important for family to support each other. That was a joke. My mom still had this sad hope that her sister Maureen would one day treat her like family again, like an equal. Maureen was the queen of the night. She always was. All eyes on her in that shiny blue dress, walking around like the place was her throne room. She ran her own nonprofit, the Carmichael Circle for Young Women in Finance, and tonight was her big donor dinner. Her face was on the damn banner behind the stage. I didn't want to be there. I was nervous, underdressed, and out of place. I had just graduated from a community college, was working part-time, and didn't have a clue what I was doing with my life. Everyone around me was rich, polished, fake smiling like their lives were camera-ready. Then came the panel. Maureen was up there with some other philanthropy leaders. They were answering questions from the audience, all softballs, all compliments disguised as questions. Then someone asked a real one. What motivates you to give back, beyond the tax breaks and awards? Nobody really answered it. They danced around it with cheesy lines like, "It's about legacy," or "Giving back is in our blood." I don't know what got into me, but I raised my hand. I had no idea what I was doing. I stood up and said, "I didn't come from money. And honestly, people like me aren't looking for charity. We just want a real shot." I thought I said something good. Something honest. Maureen took the mic, gave that smug little laugh of hers, and looked right at me, then turned back to the room and said, "Well, we need people like her so the rest of us can shine." Laughter. Real laughter. Not polite. People chuckled. Some leaned toward each other whispering. A guy near me even smirked and said, "Damn." My face went hot. My ears buzzed. I sat down slowly and didn't say another word all night. My mom squeezed my hand under the table. She looked like she wanted to melt into her seat. Maureen didn't even look at me after that. She just kept talking, like I was nothing. That was the moment something broke inside me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just embarrassed. But it stayed with me. That sentence. Her voice. That room full of people who all decided I didn't belong there. And from that night on, I knew I would never forget it. I didn't plan revenge right away. I didn't storm out and write a manifesto. I went home and cried in my car. But something inside me changed after that. Slowly. Quietly. I kept going with school. I transferred to CU Denver, focused on nonprofit administration. Everyone else wanted to make an impact. I wanted to learn how the game was played, how the money moved, how the power worked, where people like Maureen got away with things. I started pulling IRS 990 forms on different nonprofits' public financial records. I wanted to see who was wasting money, who was cooking books. I took internships that got me access to grants, compliance meetings, donor reports. And over time I got good at it. Really good. Maureen's charity kept growing. She started doing TV interviews, posting staged photos with inner-city students. But I noticed things most people missed. Like how she reused the same names in different reports. How her board members never changed. How she paid her husband's firm ridiculous fees for event management. She had built a pretty house on a cracked foundation. I just had to wait for the right moment to knock it down. The opening came when she launched a new program in Pueblo, a financial literacy workshop for low-income single mothers. It sounded nice on paper, but I knew it was rushed. She needed good PR after a scandal, where she implied in an interview that some girls just don't have the polish for success. So she pushed it fast. Too fast. I submitted a public records request through a friend, got my hands on the grant documents. Right away I saw the problems. She listed staff members who didn't exist. Claimed credentials from counselors who weren't even licensed in Colorado. Budgeted funds for services that never happened. Counted the same participants in multiple cohorts to inflate her impact. It was all in black and white. I just had to push the right buttons. So I filed 3 complaints, all anonymous. 1 to the Colorado Attorney General, 1 to the IRS, 1 to the Office of the Inspector General that oversees state grants. I included documentation, screenshots, spreadsheets. Then I waited. A few months later, the audit hit. She had no idea I was behind it. That's what made it sweet. The press got involved fast. A local reporter published the first story. Carmichael Circle under state review after financial irregularities found. Spread quick. Other outlets picked it up. They dug deeper. Turns out, her accountant had a history of sloppy filings. 2 past clients were already fined. Her nonprofit hadn't updated key paperwork in years. A separate investigation found that her own son, listed as a volunteer coordinator, was being paid under the table. The IRS put a hold on her nonprofit's account. Donors backed out. Grant agencies froze future funds. She called it an attack on women-led initiatives. But the damage was done. She tried to clean it up, hired a crisis management firm, paid for articles to be taken down, sent out letters to donors claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But the investigation didn't go away. It kept getting worse. Her second home in Boulder gone. Auctioned off. Her Lexus and her husband's Tesla seized. She had to sell her Estes Park vacation house just to stay afloat. But it wasn't enough. Not even close. And then came the final cut. CU Boulder removed her name from the Carmichael Women in Finance Scholarship. CSU scrubbed her name off their donor wall. The Denver Post ran a piece titled, "How One Woman's Vanity Wrecked a Nonprofit Empire." They quoted a former board member saying, "We should have seen the signs." She wanted her name on everything. But she didn't want to do the work. Her reputation? Ashes. She wasn't invited to speaking events anymore. Nobody called her for interviews. Foundations she helped start quietly took her name off their documents. And when the final IRS report came out, the Denver Nonprofit Registry listed her as Maureen Carmichael, director during collapse and subsequent federal seizure. That's all that's left of her legacy now. Not a hero. Not a leader. Just a footnote. I thought it would feel better. That's the twist nobody tells you about revenge. You expect fireworks. Applause. A moment where the world nods and says, "You did it." But it's not like that. It's quieter. Like standing on a battlefield after everyone's gone. The problem was, Maureen didn't just disappear. She started clawing back. At first it was sad. She tried to build a new charity, something small, local with a different name. Empower First. I saw the launch on Facebook. Only a few likes. But then I noticed something else. Some of her old donors were helping her again. Not the big fish, but the smaller ones. The ones she had babysat for in the 90s, or who owed her favors. And worst of all, one of her old board members had ties to a new state senator in Colorado Springs. That's when I realized she wasn't done. She was trying to rebuild. Different name, same rot. I could have walked away. Told myself I already won. But I didn't. I started digging again. The twist was I had made enemies too. Turns out, when you quietly burn a nonprofit to the ground, someone eventually figures out the smoke came from your direction. Especially when one of the whistleblowers accidentally forwarded an email from C. Hale, my old alias. That was enough for one of Maureen's sleazier friends to start connecting dots. A few weeks later, I got a call from my boss. He looked shaken. Apparently someone filed an ethics complaint against me at the consultancy where I worked. Claimed I had used insider data to retaliate against former clients. Complete lie. But now I had to defend myself. Suddenly I was the one under review. Maureen wasn't just trying to recover. She was trying to burn me down on her way back up. Played it cool. Denied everything. The firm let me go quietly, while they did their internal cleanup. But I knew what was happening. She wanted to scare me off. And maybe it would have worked if she hadn't gone after someone else. My mom. My mother still worked part-time, at a retirement home, just outside Littleton. Nothing fancy. She helped organize crafts, sorted mail, that kind of thing. Sweet lady. Never hurt anyone. One day she calls me, nearly in tears. Someone had emailed the facility pretending to be a concerned citizen, warning that she was connected to a known criminal under IRS investigation. It was clear they were trying to spook her boss, try to get her fired. It didn't work. Her manager backed her. But I knew who it was. Maureen had found out I was behind her fall, and now she was coming for blood. I snapped. I couldn't let her rebuild, couldn't let her smear my name, couldn't let her touch my mother. So I stopped hiding. I reached out to one of the journalists who had covered the first investigation. I gave her everything: emails, timelines, burner accounts, the evidence I had collected years ago. But this time I did it under my real name. The story that came out next? It made the first one look like a puff piece. Inside the Fall of Carmichael. How a Denver heiress built her empire on fraud and fell trying to save her ego this time. They published everything, including Maureen's attempt to launch a new nonprofit using shell donors and her ties to a senator's brother-in-law. It wasn't just a scandal now. It was political. The state senator who had quietly endorsed her had to distance himself. Maureen was blacklisted from every major philanthropic council in the state. Her application for Empower First was pulled from the registry due to pending litigation. And this time, even her friends walked away. But the real surprise came in the mail. It was a small letter. No return address. Inside was a photo me from the night of that original gala, standing behind a table holding that damn champagne flute. On the back someone had written, "That's when she started watching." I don't know who sent it. Maybe a friend. Maybe someone who saw the whole thing unfold and decided to give me a nudge. But it reminded me this wasn't just about me anymore. People were watching her. Watching me. Waiting to see what happened next. Because when someone like Maureen falls, the ground shakes. And sometimes the cracks run deeper than you think. I didn't expect to become a name in her story. After that last article, my name was out there. Not just buried in legal docs front and center. The whistleblower who exposed Carmichael's Circle. The woman who took down one of Colorado's most recognizable charity figures. First I got emails. Mostly quiet thank yous. A few from ex-volunteers. One woman said her daughter had been denied a Carmichael scholarship because she didn't look the part. Another man said Maureen pressured his wife into volunteering full-time, then ghosted her when she asked for compensation. But it didn't take long before the hate rolled in too. Anonymous emails. Then threats. One message just said, "You're next. Enjoy the spotlight." A Facebook group popped up, full of diehard Maureen supporters, old socialites, former donors, people too proud to admit they'd been scammed. They posted my name, my workplace, even an old photo of me from grad school. Then came the knock at my door. A private investigator, hired by one of Maureen's former board members, a man named David Lemons. I recognized his name from tax documents. He claimed he was just gathering information. But his questions weren't subtle. Did you ever financially benefit from the Carmichael collapse? Do you regret what you did to that family? Do you feel safe living alone? That last one wasn't even a question. It was a message. They weren't just mad. They were rattled. People with money, real old money, don't like seeing their world rocked by someone like me. And now that Maureen was toxic, they needed a new villain. I fit the role perfectly. But they didn't know what I still had. There were files I never released. Not out of mercy, out of strategy. A year before the first audit, I discovered that Maureen had used donor-advised funds, DAFs, to quietly shift money between charities she consulted for. The problem? Some of those funds were tied to businesses with state contracts. If you're running a nonprofit, and your donors are also bidding on state-funded projects, and you're using the same shell orgs to launder donations, that's fraud. Not just IRS fraud. We're talking federal. I had all the records. Bank wire instructions. Meeting notes. Even a voicemail Maureen left one of the contractors, pressuring them to move things faster before the quarterly report. I had kept those files in cold storage. But now that they were coming for me, threatening my mom, my job, my peace, I decided to go scorched earth. I didn't leak them this time. I submitted them directly to a federal investigator already sniffing around the state grant fraud cases. I attached a 2-page affidavit. Real name. Real background. every piece of supporting evidence. 3 weeks later, subpoenas were issued to 3 people tied to Maureen's original foundation. This wasn't about embarrassment anymore. It was about indictments. But then something I never saw coming happened. I got a call from a blocked number. It was Maureen. Her voice dry, slow, older than I remembered, said, "You think you won, don't you?" I didn't say anything. She continued, "You think this ends with my name in the dirt. But you're not the only one who knows how to play this game." I asked her, "Why'd you call?" Silence. Then, "Because I want you to know if you don't back off now, I'll take you with me." Then she hung up. It shook me. I won't lie. I had worked so hard to stay clean, to stay legal, to make sure every step I took could hold up in court. But she was right about one thing. She wasn't the only one who could dig, and I had made enemies, now powerful ones. Then not long after, my mom's car was keyed in the church parking lot. Nothing stolen. Just a deep gouge along the side, and one word etched into the paint. Bitch. She didn't tell me at first. Her neighbor did. I offered to take her in, move her out. She refused. Said, "You've come this far. Don't stop now." She didn't say it, but I saw it in her eyes. She wanted this to end too. She wanted Maureen buried. For good. Now Maureen's trial is looming. She's not the only one facing charges. 2 former board members, 1 contractor, and her old accountant are all under federal review. But she's not done fighting. And neither am I. It all came down to one courtroom in downtown Denver. Federal court. No cameras. Just wooden benches. The steady tick of a clock on the wall. And a woman who once ran rooms with her smile now sitting behind a defense table. Looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Maureen Carmichael. She didn't smile now. No makeup. No fancy dress. Just a blazer that hung too loose on her. She looked like a broken statue, cracked, hollow, pretending to still be whole. The trial wasn't flashy. The prosecution had everything. Bank records. Testimony. A paper trail that went back 7 years. The worst part? Her own people flipped. The accountant took a deal. One board member even cried on the stand, saying, "I thought we were helping people." Maureen didn't cry. Not once. When it was my turn to testify, I stood up straight. I wore the same black blouse I wore to job interviews, not because it was lucky, but because it reminded me where I came from. I looked her in the eye. I told the court about the lies, the fake names, the stolen grant money, the programs that never existed, the young women who were promised opportunity and got used for photo ops instead. I told them about the email Maureen sent to a donor joking that these girls look good on brochures, even if they're useless with money. And I ended with the truth. She didn't just steal money. She stole trust. From everyone. The judge thanked me. I stepped down. She wouldn't look at me. Maureen was convicted on multiple counts: wire fraud, misuse of public funds, obstruction. The sentence? 8 years in federal prison. No parole for at least 5. Ordered to repay $1.7 million in restitution. She didn't go straight to jail. They gave her 2 weeks to settle affairs. I watched her walk out of the courtroom, eyes low, heels clicking on the floor. She passed by me on the way out. Paused for a half second. "I hope it was worth it," she whispered. I didn't answer. Because it wasn't about being worth it. It was about making sure she couldn't hurt anyone again. But I didn't come out clean either. The media had loved me at first, the quiet whistleblower who took down the queen of fake philanthropy. But as the trial got more attention, reporters dug deeper. One story ran a piece titled, "Vigilante or Victim?" They questioned my methods. The burner accounts. The anonymous leaks. Even though I broke no laws, some people didn't care. To them, revenge, even slow legal revenge, was ugly. I lost clients. Got threats. Was labeled obsessed on more than one blog. Worse, I had pushed so hard for so long. I had nothing left after the dust settled. No job. No clear future. Just a name people now whispered when they talked about scandal. And yeah, I made mistakes. I got consumed. I went too far at times. Maybe there was a moment I could have stepped back. Walked away with the win. But I didn't. Because I saw what she did to people like my mom. Like me. And I couldn't let her win. A year later I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside. She was always cruel. Thank you. No name. Just that. I keep it in my desk. Along with the original photo from the gala, the one where I'm standing in the corner 20 years old, invisible. Now I'm not invisible anymore. Neither is what she did. And that finally is enough.